I'm going to begin this week with a quote from Arsene Wenger, highly respected figure in our game. And he says, football has to anticipate the future. Very wise, because the future comes at you very fast. Things change very quickly. And they certainly have in our sport. Just look at the last couple years. In 2026, we're going to have a 48-team World Cup. All over the planet, we have implemented VAR to the game. Replay. Things that we never thought we would get to. So whenever a new idea comes down the pike, take it at face value. There's a good chance, if enough energy gets behind it, as good or as bad of an idea as it is, if money is to be made, there's a good chance it's going to happen. This is the Soccer OG. Look at this lovely Bumpy Pitch Football Club shirt. The great folks at Bumpy Pitch, in collaboration with the Soccer OG, we are here to give you some cool gear. Maybe you like the shirt. I'll give you the shirt off my back, but I am here to give away this lovely, look at this thing, Bumpy Pitch sweatshirt. You will be all the rage. You will be the cool kid at school or work when you have this. Doesn't that look nice? Purple. It's the new pink. It's the new green. No, purple's very cool. Everyone's gonna get. This could be yours. All you have to do is go to the Soccer OG podcast, which is now published. I have JP Della Camera, the other Soccer OG, joining me. And in the segment that is stoppage time, the last segment, I will give you a quote. There is a quote that you have to put on a retweet. So when I post the Soccer OG podcast tweet on my Twitter, Max Bretos, quote retweet it with this expression that you will hear on the Soccer OG podcast. So go from here to here, and you can win a beautiful sweatshirt. Thanks to the folks at Bumpy Pitch. We're very excited about this partnership. And yes, while you're here, please subscribe. Subscribe. There you go. Fantastic video performances the last couple games of the U.S. men's national team, going from Canada, Honduras. Thank you for everyone who listened in. We'll be back with the October qualifiers. We will also talk about in a future Soccer OG podcast which players that didn't get called into the September camps likely to get a call up in October. Look, everything is up for grabs here with this U.S. men's national team. And what I mentioned to JP in the podcast, Greg Berhalter's in a very high stress, high pressure situation. He needs to get results. And he is going to field the team that gives him the best chance to qualify for the World Cup. It has to happen. The U.S. as it stands would qualify for the World Cup. But if this team is better without Christian Pulisic or Serginho Dest or even a guy like Gio Reyna, you don't play them. You find the team that works. And it was a fantastic effort in the second half against Honduras. A lot of MLS-based players, Ricardo Pepi, Sebastian Lletget, Matt Turner, Miles Robinson, Cristian Roldan came on, made the difference. So maybe it's the MLS players, maybe it's a combination of two, maybe these young European stars step up in a big way the next time around. But it's going to be really interesting to see who makes those 11. It's up for grabs. There's no favorites here anymore. You get the team that can get the results, whoever those are. It doesn't have to be essentially your best players, your big name players. Going to talk about a topic that came up this week, and it directly affects the U.S. men's national team, and it is the discussion of a biennial World Cup. So instead of every 4 years, you have a World Cup every 2 years. This keeps coming up from FIFA. They had a proposal from the Saudi Arabian Football Federation. Yes, the Middle East is involved in our sport more than ever, whether it's ownership of the biggest clubs in the world or pushing stuff like this. They do have Arsene Wenger behind it. He is the FIFA Chief of Global Football Development. And right now, FIFA, as it applies to football global development, wants to see if they can get another World Cup. There's a lot here on the plate. Arsene Wenger and a group of ex-players and others feel like they can get behind it. This keeps coming up. Super League's going to keep coming up. I think both of those things, I think a biennial World Cup and a Super League, both happen. Maybe not in the next year or two, maybe 5, 10 years down the road. I think they both happen. in some way, shape, or form. I get a little pushback, but every time I'm watching the news cycle and here it comes, and now it has energy behind it because it's got Arsene Wenger and it's got some heavy hitters. And they want to clear up the football calendar, so to speak, eliminating some of the international windows by allowing these World Cups to happen every 2 years. Now, obviously, traditionalists aren't going to be happy, and I am one of them. You know, I can remember my growing up, and I judged time with World Cups. Where was I for the World Cup of 94 or 98 or 2002, 06? You remember them. Now you're going to have every 2 years. That's going to take a little bit of the shine off of it. But it really is what happens between these 4 years. And are we getting the most out of the game? Are we getting the most out of the players and everyone involved so as to have a smooth oiled machine? We've got to eliminate the fixture list. Apparently, this is something that this proposal might be able to do. And there's a lot of roadblocks. There's no doubt about it. Because there's so much on the calendar. Let's talk about the confederational championships like the Euros and Copa America and the Gold Cup and African Cup of Nations. There have been 4 Copa Americas in the last 7 years. That's a lot. And when that happens so frequently, people lose interest. This Copa America, yes, Lionel Messi won it, but it really didn't resonate outside of that final on a global stage. The Euros did. Now, UEFA is going to be pushing back on a Biennial World Cup for obvious reasons. They have already a World Cup amongst themselves. Qualifying, if you can ease the burden now, some of the international windows, Arsene Wenger says they can take away by this. Now, how do you qualify everyone? Now, remember, we're going to have this 48-team World Cup, and nothing will go. The soonest this could happen is 2028. So, can this eliminate some international windows? I'd like to see it. I don't know how. And how can you give everyone an equal shot at qualifying? Because everyone wants to qualify for the World Cup. I don't care if you're in England or the United States or Netherlands or Andorra or San Marino. You still want to believe that your team can make it. And you hope one day they can. Obviously not everyone can, but in this era of expansion, maybe that starts to happen a little bit more. You have the Confederational Championships. Those can still happen under this proposal. So you would have, let's say, World Cup 2026, Confederational Championship 2027, World Cup 2028, Confederational Championship 2029, and so on and so on. One big pushback, what happens with the Women's World Cup? How do you make them whole so that they are the only show in town? So maybe you do it in one of those years of the Confederational Championships. You have the Nations League, which has worked, but that'll have to be scrapped. There's a lot of international dates to fill out these windows. There's some big moments. The Champions League, the Club Champions League, that has grown. They're going to have an expanded tournament. That's going to have to be condensed, which I'm fine with. I think you have a 32-team Champions League. That's plenty. We've got to be leery of what's the burden on the players. And right now, the players are just getting overwhelmed. Just look at this last international date. You had 3 international fixtures. Players come back, have a weekend with the clubs, and now in many cases playing in the Champions League. That is way too much on their plate. Amazing that not anyone has just collapsed in one of these games with all the heavy workload. It's hard to imagine you could pull this off without really causing all sorts of confusion and wrecking the calendar that currently is. I have faith in Arsene Wenger. And when he says that quote I said at the beginning, football has to anticipate the future, we have seen this with this sport and any other sport. If you sit and dig your heels in, things will pass you by. And there's a dollar sign attached to this. If this World Cup could happen every 2 years, a lot of things have to be moved away. But there's a lot of stuff that I think we can do without. How does the qualifying work? It's going to be messy. There's no doubt about it. But as you take a closer look at this, from a United States perspective, I don't think Europeans benefit from this because the Euros have become such a colossus. Now, what I would love to see instead of a Biennial World Cup is possibly a Tournament of the Americas. Because in our region, Copa America and the Gold Cup can't really stand alone anymore. The Copa America obviously has a lot more equity and clout than the Gold Cup. But both of them trail badly with regards to the Euros. Copa America has the teams. Gold Cup has the money, the resources, and has USA, Mexico. And let's throw in Canada there as well. You have 3 teams there to go with the 10 teams of South America, the 4 or 5 that will be heading to the World Cup. You have a great competition. And part of what needs to happen is with the era of the Nations League, this isn't doing the U.S. any favors. Because we've seen it, they fill their calendar, with all due respect, games against Panama and Trinidad and Tobago and El Salvador. While it's good to play in your region, you're not going to get better. The U.S. needs something like this to get better. Every 2 years, if in fact they qualify, which we expect them to do it because the rules will certainly be bent in the United States' favor for everything in qualification. To get a shot at the best in the world every 2 years will get your sport to go up. Again, I'm a traditionalist. I like the wait. And I like to build up towards that. But if you don't adjust, someone else will. And Arsene Wenger knows that. The Europeans they're gonna hold in there. But if there's enough energy behind it, they will be at some point forced to concede. And I think FIFA, look, you talk about what a World Cup can bring. Money talks. All of this is based on money. 2018 World Cup, $4.6 billion in revenue. Do the math. All of a sudden you have a World Cup every 2 years. That's not going anywhere. Having a World Cup every 2 years will get more people excited. It just does. It's the biggest sporting event in the world. And while it's great to have it every 4 years, every 2 years is still a gap. You still have to build into it. People would be pumped for it. The U.S. will get to play top European, top South American teams. That's important. That's why I think the U.S. and CONCACAF regions have to push for this. And you can't stop progress. I can't believe I'm even saying this because I was a proponent to go, stop messing around. But I've seen the meddling. All the big ideas that are out there that have come to fruition. They've all happened. So why not this one? The Super League, World Cup expansion, VAR, the Club World Cup, which is Gianni Infantino's baby. Maybe that doesn't survive. But this would be good for the U.S. Now, it may not happen. But again, it keeps popping up. But think about that. U.S. getting to play every 2 years against the best. And then you have these players based in Europe getting that opportunity, and you don't fill your calendar with stuff. There's going to be some collateral damage. Not everyone's going to be happy. Someone's going to be left out in the cold. But this is direction of sports. This is direction of soccer. Maybe it doesn't happen, but in the words of Arsene Wenger, you've got to anticipate the future and don't get caught with your pants down. You've got to be ready because change comes at you fast. The Soccer OG, make sure you check out the podcast. Go to Stoppage Time to hear the secret phrase so you can win a bumpy pitch sweater pullover, whatever you want to call it. And we'll join you next week. We'll talk more about the U.S. men's national team as they prepare for October.